Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant John Solleder. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
Well, it is my pleasure to introduce a new friend who is setting the world on fire in her industry, and that is Audrey Lloyd. Audrey, welcome to the call.
Thank you.
And I want to tell people a little bit about you, and then we'll get into some deep dive questions. How's that?
That sounds great.
So Audrey is a change management and business transformation expert. She's ICF credentialed executive coach, speaker. She's an inventor, a futurist, and a universal citizen. Drawing upon her own tenure as a full-time employee and extensive consulting and coaching experience, she presents compelling reasons to believe in oneself and how to take strategic approaches to unlocking our true brilliance. Now, she's got a book coming out here in a few short weeks, so I want you guys to make sure that you write this down. It's called Bold, Rein in Your Mind, Rein in Your Career. It's a book about mindset, finding your authentic self, and stepping into your personal power. Leading with your true and authentic self, you significantly increase your chances of success. Amid a work revolution, Audrey advances a compelling strategic approach, illuminating how to live, work, and thrive in an increasingly complex and uncertain world. In the book Bold, okay, and get this, everybody, Audrey seeks to show that there is no single defining event that will allow you to succeed. Instead, is an accumulation of the choices that you make, your life experiences, and the actions that drive the true path to success that is unique to you. So, Audrey, first of all, welcome to the show. And you know, there's so much to talk about here. I'm not even sure where to start, but let's just start at the top. Tell us a little bit about the many hundreds of hours. I think it's over 500 hours just to get some of the coaching certificates that you've achieved. I know you're a Rutgers University graduate as well. So, but tell us a little bit about coaching and how you arrived on wanting to be a coach in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, it's been quite a journey, I will say that. And I've had a longstanding aspiration. I can actually remember it was New Year's Eve, I think 2014. I was at the Marriott in New York City with my sister, and we were kind of just talking about life. And I said, you know, I really think the next phase of my life, I really want to be a coach. I help companies to transform. And I love talking and helping people. And I really just want to go on that journey. And so I was looking for the right coaching program, and right in my backyard is Rutgers University. I had the conversation with the recruiter and I was in, and I met the most amazing group of people from multiple industries. I learned a ton. I thought I knew a lot, of course, going in, right? But you learn pretty quickly that coaching is actually not what you think, that it is a lot of listening and following, and really just, you know, going on the journey with clients to really learn about them and help them to achieve their best selves.
And I know we were chatting a little bit the other day, but I mean, it's a minimum of 500 hours just to get these certifications that you possess. So 500 hours, that's a lot of hours to do anything, certainly, right? I think in a tipping point, I know Malcolm Gladwell talks a lot about, you know, repetition being the mother of invention, right? And our moms told us that, and probably their moms probably told them that. But talk about that a little bit. I mean, how did you start, and now, you know, where are things at as we speak now that you've had all of this experience?
Mm-hmm. So, you know, once you're in the program at Rutgers, you obviously take the exam once you get out, and then you want to be certified at, you know, the entry level, so to speak. And so you have to do 100 hours. And then to get to the PCC level, you have to get to the 500 hours. And so really what I approached it as was just a learning journey to help people, but at the same time to increase my craft in coaching. And so I participated in a number of international, I would guess you would say coaching partnerships where you coach people that are also coaches, but then I also had clients, you know, in the UK, Canada, you know, they always say start with people you know, right? So I started also with people in the US, and that branched out. And it was a lot of talking, a lot of listening. And after a while, I think once you get into 200 hours or so, and you just book them and get on the call with them, and you see the transformations that are happening in their personal lives. It doesn't even seem like a job, really. It just seems like you have a relationship. So you get on a call. And so for me, it passed by fairly quickly. And so it was a really, really great journey.
Right. So I assume, and I know we've talked about this a little bit, but I assume self-development is something that obviously you encourage in your clients for them to grow, right? Because, in everything we do in life, we're trying to grow other people as well as ourselves, of course. So let's talk a little bit about self-development. Do you remember the first book that you kind of had that, that light bulb moment, right? We see that meme with the light bulb lighting up, that first one that you picked it up or you tripped across it or somebody gave it to you. And what was it? What was the book?
The book was by, I believe, David Schwartz, and it was The Magic of Thinking Big. I believe back in, I think it was 1989, 1990, or 89, 90, if I recall. And I think I got it at Borders, right? It was cheap. It was like $9.99, which tells you that was quite a while ago.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's amazing. And one of the things that I always ask anybody like yourself that's successful, that's motivated, that's growing, you can see the growth in people when you talk to them. And I get this remarkable experience every week of interviewing people that are growing, and some of them are 80 years old, and some of them are 20 years old, and everything in between, and men and women, and some are here in North America, some are in Europe, and even Asia. But one of the things I ask everybody is the following question, and that is this. Today, they pull up to your house there in New Jersey, and I don't know what the weather's like today, hopefully better than when we spoke on Friday, but it's wintertime in New Jersey where I grew up, so I kind of can guess the weather. And they pull up and they say, Audrey, we're going to take you to a beautiful deserted island. You're going to have plenty of food, plenty of water, plenty of sustenance, plenty of everything that you need, but you're limited on what you can bring. So in addition to your Holy Bible or whatever you believe as far as spirituality, you can only bring 3 other books in addition to that. What would those 3 books be?
Wow. Okay. So I would say Thick Face, Black Heart by Ching-Ning Chu, 48 Laws of Power by Arnold Green, and then Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Wow. Okay, great. That's quite a list, needless to say. And any reason why those 3 versus probably hundreds of other books sitting there in your library?
Yeah. So particularly for Thick Face, Black Heart, I mean, I've had that book since 2000, probably before 2000. And I kind of refer to it as my reference book for life. It really just has such great lessons, how to build character, and has such wisdom in it that I find that I'm always drawing upon it. And in fact, in my book, Bold, Reigning Your Mind, Reigning Your Career, I draw a lot of the quotes from Ching-Ning Chu that is so inspirational, so deep, and full of such wisdom.
And you're verifying something that we talk to people about all the time. And I know you and I had a wonderful conversation Friday afternoon about this, that all leaders are readers. And it works the other way, right? All readers are leaders. And it just shows because, we read sometimes, like C.S. Lewis said, to know that we're not alone. And you pick up a book like that and you go, wait a minute, I thought only I thought this way, or only I was going through this experience or this frustration perhaps in life. And then you read and you realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm not the only person that either has gone through whatever I'm going through or whatever the obstacle happens to be, confronting it head on. So let's talk a little bit, though, about your upcoming book, because it's very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's, I interview a lot of authors and done it myself a couple of times as well. And boy, is it ever a labor of love to write a book, right?
It is.
So talk about self-development and personal growth, right? So let's talk about that. Bold, Rein in Your Mind. Love the title, by the way. Rein in Your Career. And it's going to be available, I think, February 14th.
Yeah, I'm looking at a date of February 14th, maybe before, but let's just say the 14th. Yeah.
Okay. And where can they get it, first of all? Then I have some specific questions on it.
Yeah, well, they definitely can get it on Amazon. It'll be available there. So let's just go with that because I think people will remember that one, right?
Thank God for Jeff Bezos, right?
Right.
So let's talk about it a little bit. So 3 major game changers in that book when they read it. Give me 3 major game changers.
Yeah. So three major game changers would be what we learned from when we were in kindergarten, just be yourself. But, it's hard many times to find our authentic self. But really, the book will help you to explore and to realize that you are already great. You really are. And to delve deep to say, what is authentic for me? And by the way, authentic is not a brand. Many times people think authentic is the way they wear their hair or fashion, but it's really around who are you at core? What values, what are you great at in terms of your innate skills and talent? So I think that's number one. And number two is that when you are truly your authentic self, you're almost going to guarantee your success, even if it doesn't necessarily work out for you. But when I say that, it's a matter of, in the book, I talk about sort of the pattern of success, that you can be as prepared as you want to be. But really, it's the timing also, right? In terms of when the opportunity presents itself. So in the book, I talk a lot about Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Barack Obama, even people like Schwarzenegger and Madonna, that there's a pattern to their success and that they have craft, they're authentic, and then there's the opportunity that presents itself. And so I think those are the three insights that I would definitely say you would find in the book.
I love it. I love it. And boy, is that just, we could probably talk all day about this, but timing, if you think about, if Henry Ford was born in the 1950s, or if any of the people you just mentioned were born at different points in time, would they have been people that were referencing that everybody on the call says instantaneously, I know who that is, right? I interviewed somebody a couple of weeks ago and we were talking about Mark Cuban. And we said, just talk about being born at the right time. Now, he capitalized on it, which,
of course,
once again, it's like, hey, if you go, gee, I got this great product or idea, but you don't do anything, well, we know what that turns into, right? So it's moving forward on it. So let's talk a little bit more about this, because I know myself, when I read, I want to be disturbed. Now let me quantify that, not only for yourself, but for my listeners, because that sounds, a lot of people could read a lot into that isn't what I want. Disturbed in the respect that I read the book and that gray matter of our brain, right? I mean, supposedly Einstein used 10% of his brain, and so the rest of us are probably using 7 or 8% if we're lucky, right? Which means even in Einstein's case, 90% of it was dormant from an activity standpoint, consciously. And I think that when you go to sleep, after you read something that you say, wait a minute, what did the author say? Or more importantly, what did they mean by what they said?
right.
So I read Bold, Rein in Your Mind, and I read it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I go about the rest of my day and business and life and whatever. And I go to bed 10 o'clock. And at 2 o'clock, I say, what Audrey was trying to say, I didn't get it when I first read it. And I go back and I pick the book up and I read whatever it was. It was on page 42, and I'm just throwing that out there. What's going to keep me awake at night to say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be a better version of me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think it's what I said earlier, that really you have to start with yourself, start with your authentic self. And when you show up as your true and authentic self, that you're almost going to guarantee your success. And so in the book, I talk a lot about this concept of bold is not necessarily that you're colorful or that you're, an extrovert, but bold is really about you realizing what your innate talent and gifts are, your characteristics, what makes you really, really great. And so I talk in the book about sometimes people miss their bold. They miss their bowl because they're trying to emulate or be someone else. And they will guarantee their success if they just lean into who they really are. They really are. In terms of what will provoke you and maybe make you think a bit is that, we waste a lot of time in life, not necessarily going after what it is that we want. And in the book, I do talk about a subject matter of mortality that not a lot of books talk about. It's almost like that book that was written, everything you needed to know, and everything you needed to know, you learned in kindergarten, when the author talks about, that everything dies, that we also do too. And so we waste time in not pursuing the things that we really want to do, or we think we have more time than we really do have. And so the book really has this call to action to say, you need to do this now. You need to utilize the gifts and talents that you have now, and you really need to go after, what you want, but also realize that, when you don't realize your goal, that you also suffer because you have all this pent up possibility in you that you're not really utilizing and tapping into. And so that's what I think the book will really provoke in people as well.
Well, I know I can't wait to read it personally. So, because I want to be provoked. I want to read, not only so I know that I'm not alone, but I want to read so I say, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to be better at something, whether it's my craft, whether it's my family life, whether it's my spiritual life. I want to be affected by it. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because I've got some other specific questions for you about the book. So let's talk about vision. Let's start there. I'm going to call this the 3 V's: vision, value, and valued, because there's a difference, right? So let's talk about our vision for a minute. How does someone improve their vision of themselves in a world that seemingly, let's face it, the last 2 years hasn't been exactly getting people real optimistic, right? It's like every time you turn on the TV, there seems like there's something else horrific that is coming our way. How do people get that vision for their future, most importantly, and try to eliminate some of that other stuff that holds them back because of circumstances that are way beyond any of our control, so they identify what they can do for themselves?
So it's really that mental model, if there weren't any restraints or any restrictions, what do you want? What do you really want for yourself? What do you envision in your head? What are you dreaming of? And then really holding that mental model in place and actioning, taking steps to actually achieve it.
Okay. And so let's go on from there. Let's talk about values, because that's values and character are hand in hand, obviously. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, I really sum it up by saying, what do you stand for? What do you stand for, at the end of the day? And we all have different values. We all have different things that we believe that are true to us. And by the way, values are not morals, right? So it's not necessarily good or bad or evil. It's just around, what do I hold dearly? What do I stand for? What do I want to exemplify in the world? What do I want to allow into my life? What are the standards in which I'm going to present myself to the world and that I look for in others, whether it's an opportunity or in the things that I really want?
I think what you're kind of describing there too, to some degree, would be, like attracts like the old book, James Allen book, As a Man Thinketh, right? We attract what we are, not what we think we are.
Right.
Great point. So let's talk the word valued, because it's a little different than values. It's got some similarities, but talk about how we can be valued better in the marketplace and in our lives.
But again, to be valued, it goes back to, how do you want to be appreciated? And if we talk about in the workplace, you can think about, do I want to be appreciated by being compensated? For some people, that's meaningful, but some people want to just be recognized. Some people want to have opportunities to learn, maybe go to training, to advance themselves. They want to be able to lead others. So it's about, what do you want to feel as if you are recognized for the talent that you have and for the talent that you actually give? That's like how you're going to be paid back, right? In terms of how a company or individuals will actually appreciate you in the end.
Wow. So let me ask this. We have listeners of every demographic. I mean, we're listening to, well, some weeks as many as 30 different countries that people listen to us from Europe to Asia to South and Central America, and of course up here in the US, and all different age groups. So let's go categorically, because let's say I'm in my 20s, maybe early 30s. How do I get myself more valuable to the marketplace so that I can be more valued by, whether it's an employer or from self-employed? How do I improve myself so that others identify, hey, that's somebody I want to work with? Or if it's in a corporate setting, somebody I want to get behind, somebody I want to build a team or a unit with, or whatever it happens to be in any particular business.
Mhm. So that's a great question. And in the book, I do talk about the seasons in our lives, right? Almost like with, whether if you live in an area that has four seasons, summer, winter, fall, etc. There we have seasons in our lives as well, right? So when you're in your 20s and 30s, you're not at the same place as when you're in your 40s and 50s, right? But regardless of where you are in the season, this whole idea of being valued goes hand in hand with value that you provide. And so we talked about earlier about learning, right? I think that when you have craft, when you have skill and capabilities and innate talent as well, that you always want to make sure you're feeding it, right? You stay hungry for knowledge. And that way you're always going to be valuable because you're going to be current, you're going to be relevant. And when you are relevant and current and you can actually help, right, through the talents that you have, then it's only fair that you look then to be valued, to be paid back for what it is that you're offering. And so I think no matter where you are, what age you are, that there is this equation that's out there, right? What do I give versus what I get? And that to balance that equation is about you making really smart decisions in terms of what you want, but also realizing that on the other side, there is someone there, an employer, a business partner, that they're looking for talent and expertise. And so you want to be able to deliver on the promise by staying sharp, by staying up on your craft.
Wow. And that would certainly apply, I'm sure, to the older group. But let me ask the question that anyway, the 40s and 50s, because as we both know, people are living longer. I mean, it's not unusual today to find somebody, working in some capacity, even into their 80s, even in their 90s in some cases, if they're, reasonably healthy. But let's talk about the 40s and 50s, because that's a demographic that, to me anyway, is kind of lost right now. We know the young people know how to work the iPhones and all the technology, and then the older people like me forget it. It's like we've given up on technology. That's why we have teenagers. But that group in the middle, that 40s and 50s, that in some cases are still even developing their career. How do you coach them to be more valuable in the marketplace so that once again, they're identified as somebody that people want to do business with and grow with?
Mm-hmm. So, I want to just take a minute to talk about, because actually in the book, I talk about the value equation, which introduces this concept of your vision, your values, your value, and being valued. And it's really a decision-making model around what is it that you want in your life. And so we talked earlier about that vision being that mental model, the values that you put out there. You might say, I only want to work for certain types of employers or certain types of people, partners that align with my values, right? I know what my value is in terms of my expertise and my innate talent. I know how I want to be valued. And so you're putting that together. So when you're in your 40s and 30s, it goes back to what is it that you want? What do you want to attract into your life, right? So when you're in your 40s and 50s, you're in a different season, I would think, than when you first started out. You probably feel as if you've paid your dues, right? To some extent. And so, yes, you want to learn and you want to grow, but maybe you're not willing to sacrifice your sleep. Maybe you're not willing to be on the road all the time, right? Maybe you have other objectives and other priorities that you want to put, in that equation. And so when you're at that point, I really think that you need to think through, what do you want for your life? And to really try to attract that partnership by being honest, right? Whether it's in the employer or the business partner, or whoever you're dealing, to say, I know what I want, but it starts really with you knowing yourself and you knowing what it is that you offer in terms of your value and how you want to be valued as well.
Wow. Great, great. So let's go to the last category, which unfortunately I qualify for now, the 60 and up group, which, it's an interesting demographic now that I've joined it, which, I wish I hadn't joined it, but I joined it a few months ago. And I know I talked to a lot of people that are, 60s, 70s, 80s, that have a wonderful outlook, not only on life, because they've had the experience. I think I think their meter for things is a little bit lower maybe than younger people are. They'll take less. They're more honest, I think, in certain respects in terms of what they're looking for. But a lot of them are still growing and still want to grow. I just did a call earlier today with an 83-year-old guy, for example, up in Ontario. And he's still, every time I talk to him, he's reading a new book and we're talking about ideas. So let's take that last group. and say, okay, maybe you're in the twilight of your business career, perhaps. Maybe you're not, for that matter. Maybe you're even starting something new. Maybe you're venturing with one of your children on something. How do you coach them to say, hey, maybe I don't have the luxury of a lot of years of production left. How do I compress that to take all of that a priori knowledge that I have for years and years and years and life experience, right? Good, bad, and indifferent. And how do I take that and capitalize on it and share it maybe with a younger business partner, be it a child, be it a stranger for that matter? How do you get those people where they need to be in terms of their thinking?
Right. So I think number one is to recognize that there's a lot of wisdom that's there. My goodness, right? You can read all the books you want, but nothing beats real life experience. And so I think of, my dad who's in his 80s, who just got an iPhone and is so hungry to learn and wants to be relevant, right? Relevant. So he can talk to his grandchildren and he can be on video. I think that relevance thing is really where it's at for all of us, no matter what age group you are in. So when you have all that wisdom, later on in life, it's really to say, how can I come in? How can I be relatable? How can I help, right? In terms of where do I insert myself? And so you can't really understand that unless you understand really, I would think, the landscape. Right? Because if it's just like with me, if I'm talking about things that happened in the 80s, not a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that. But there are things that happened in the 80s that still apply. But I just have to figure out, how do I then bring it forward so that people can actually see that there is relevance and there is parallel. So I think really that's the thing to do, is to say, how can I help in terms of taking in and to remain curious, right? So learning is to be curious, be curious to say, how can I help in this current day based on the wisdom and knowledge that I have?
Right. Great answer. So let's talk, Pat, as we wrap up here, let's talk once again. I want people to know about the book. Okay. And I think you were waiting for the cover to get to you the other day. Did that arrive, I hope?
I didn't get the cover as yet, but I will say this. It is going to be one of those career books that when you see it, it's the galaxy. It almost is going to remind you of Star Trek, right? Ooh. It's really just the galaxy, and you're going to see the bold Rein in your mind, Rein in your career. And it's blue with the white stars and the crisp white writing. So you'll be able to recognize it for sure.
And I love the title. Let's wrap up on the title, Audrey, because the title has so much power in it. It's like when we first got together, it's like, I love the title of this book. I mean, anytime you talk about being bold, it's like you're speaking to people who get up early in the morning, have the right outlook in life, don't always have the right direction, by the way, but they have that zest. They're not sleeping in 9, 10, 12 hours a day. They're getting out of bed and they're saying, let me get at it, whatever it is, whether it's their exercise program, whether it's their work, whether it's their business, whether it's their family, whether it's helping out at the local church, feeding the home, whatever it happens to be. I love that bold. Let's talk about the title. So how did you get there? Give me the roots of it.
Yes. So bold is a combination of things. I mean, it's funny because I was working on a talk, right? An inspirational talk. And it was really talking about really utilizing your bold, which again, bold means different things. My bold is not your bold per se, right? So bold is universal. It applies to so many people, and that it's not a personality thing per se, but it is a mindset thing, right? And it is you recognizing the talents and gifts that you have, your authentic self, and really bringing that to bear. That is bold, right? But also having a heart, So, in the book, I talk about bold is bravery, being original, right? It's being loving, it's being determined, that kind of encapsulates it. But then you hear Rein in your mind, Rein in your career, which is essentially around when you get your mindset right and you really start thinking about, this is a career book, but this is really life. Life is part of career, is part of life, right? And that when we're able to get our mind set to say we want to live the best, richest life, and we want to show up and be vibrant, right? And to be in this life, that we can then rein in our career because we've got our mind set straight, right? And that we know our priorities and we know our value. And so really that's how the title was born.
I love it. Well, it's strong. And once again, it's a book that I know I'm going to read, and I hope all of our listeners are going to read, because look, most of our listeners are in a direct selling space. part-time in many cases, full-time in some cases. We all need that coaching. We all need that growth, especially these last couple of years, because everybody's life has changed these last 2 years. I don't care, rich, poor, where you live, America, Europe, Asia, doesn't really matter. The game's changed, but we have to grow wherever we are. And that's what I think Bold is going to do. So Audrey, I'm going to give you the last word here. So what else would you like to share with our listeners today?
Yeah, so I hope that they will get the book and that they will realize they're bold. They will realize what they're really, really great at and really use that to make the world a better place, and to really focus on how they can really make a difference, and to really go through the exercises in the book that will really help you, I think, to illuminate, some of the things that you might have overlooked about yourself, and to really get that perspective for it to really be transformational in your life.
Great. Well, Audrey, this has been a pleasure, and I wish you nothing but success. Continue to lead and to inspire. You're an inspirational person, and you're somebody that's a blessing to the people that you work with. I know some of the people that you work with as well. One I know really, really well. You could say I grew up with her.
It's lovely.
Exactly. But this is going to be tremendously successful. And I hope, by the way, it's one of many books, because I think you have a lot to share with the world. And I think the world needs the messaging that you're giving.
Oh, thank you for the blessing. I'll take it.
Well, thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solleder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.